Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8.6. Okay, let's continue this. Indian Army recruitment. Okay, and we got a couple of also the Marine Corps HQ from last episode that I never did click. I actually did get this because I think I might want the HQ, but you can, of course, say no if you don't want to cost of manpower or supplies or officers. And Indian Army recruitment. Oh, I also have another flotilla. Okay, and the 14th two-boat flotilla. All right, cool. Ooh, this is actually a very good unit from Indian, right? Sometimes they are pretty good. Well, even to this guy, maybe we'll use him. See once they get better. There's our marine. I don't know if we'll ever catch up to all of these. Whether we'll catch up to our marine divisions that are already in Nova Scotia. New Scotland. And down. Well, they're probably in the production queue, the subs like they normally are. There we go. Up to the top. Yes, there. Okay. Well, be a little more effective or efficient or okay, guys, can you make it? Under here? Yes. Go. Yeah, we're gonna let that continue as well, I think. Gotta get across that river so we improve our combat effectiveness. Uh-oh. Okay, well. No, we don't have any right there. So, to suppress those submarines. building one. So double one so that they're a little stronger. We don't want a sequel. We want a spotter. There we go. We'll head out to here. I've looked into those because they're well, how do I put this? They're different seaplane tenders. Different countries did them differently. Reading up on them recently, and what's sort of pictured there, I believe, are the German ones. The U.S. had multiple seaplane tenders, and some of them were sort of rushed into service from other things, but they had a couple of them, at least, that were fairly big ships that had a large sort of hangar on the back of them, but you couldn't fit a large seaplane into it. But it had a big sort of deck on the back and a big, huge crane, or actually a couple of cranes. But so you could haul one up onto the deck and do major repair work and maintenance work on it, and put it back into the water. And so it was pretty good. And the smaller seaplanes could fit into the hangar. The things that are sort of, largest fighter size could fit into the hangar. The big PBYs, and there was, I forget the other large U.S. seaplane of the war, couldn't, or the British flying Sutherland short Southern, I forget them. Seaplane wouldn't fit inside of it, but the hangar, but would fit on the back of it, and they could repair that there. And so they were pretty good. Actually, one of them was at Pearl Harbor and shot down a couple of Japanese planes at Pearl Harbor, and well, one of them ended up crashing into it. I think they shot it and it went out of control and it impacted it. So actually fairly good battle records for seaplane tenders. Got down a few other fighter craft at other times. So that was sort of the American. The Germans, because they were basing theirs off of some interwar ships that they would put out, well, maybe not North Atlantic, but out in the Atlantic somewhere. It'd sit out there, and a seaplane that was, taking off from Germany would land in the ocean behind them, and they'd sort of have a ramp on the back of them and pull them onto the ship to refuel them and whatnot, and then to send them on their way, because especially in the late 20s and early 30s, getting an aircraft all the way across the Atlantic while carrying substantial amount of passengers and light freight, airmail type kind of light packages, not big freighter stuff, really hardly basically didn't exist. That's what earlier events, the Condors, but that's even still just barely making it, and sort of for a reliability thing. So the Germans sort of had this experience. Now, some of those early ones I think would also have a catapult, which the Americans didn't. Sort of mid to late war, they built a couple that were really nice. They were about the size of a frigate, and they could hold up to basically 3 large seaplanes on them, with a central catapult that could launch them one at a time, but in quick succession to do this. And what this really does for you is, I don't know if the Germans so much practiced this, either the ones at sea or, in the interwar period, or these really, they were used, but they were sort of, by the time they were made and put out, I don't think they had much use for them, because, you're losing the war. But and this is a lot of American battleships and cruisers interwar had an integrated aircraft and other countries did as well, launched off of catapult that were used primarily, I think, for spotter airplanes. Naval sea gunnery got to the point that you could shoot accurately further than you can see over the horizon. So you got an enemy out there, you can't even see them. Your guns could shoot them, shoot out there, but you can't see the enemy. Now, especially in World War I, you're seeing making smokestacks, because they're often coal-fired turbine engines, turbine steam engines on coal, or I think it was what most of them were, but so you could maybe see the smoke and know that they're there. Now, even when you could still see them, the problem was not so much when you see where they are, but when you fired and your shells landed, you would rarely actually be able to hit them on the first shot. That would be a very rare thing. And you might be able to see by the splashes, looking through big, powerful binoculars that you've probably, if you've watched any naval movies, seen that they'd have on deck, see the splashes, whether you're long or you're short. But you couldn't really tell if you're 200 yards short or 500 yards short or something like that. So you'd be adjusting your aim, making guesses, I guess, based on the size of the splash versus the known height of a particular ship class or whatever, so it's going to be confusing. Or if you're long, of course, you maybe see the splash on the far side of the ship, and all of that. But by putting an aircraft up above them, not trying to stay, and especially pre-World War II battleships did not have very many anti-aircraft guns, or very effective ones, just about any nation. So you put an aircraft or two up there, and they can sit back, or normally two persons, so one's flying, the other one is observing, and then in early days it's just Morse code, but sending back reports to say, just as they're looking through down at them at their binoculars, I'm sure they were trained to be a bit more precise in how far long or how far short the shots fell, and that really helped gunnery. Now, by mid to late World War II, for the U.S., I know a lot of that had disappeared, and they were starting to scrap a lot of those, or remove them from the ships. Some of those things, because they're just using radar. Radar might not get you your I don't think most of the radars were set up well enough to track the shells, but if you knew precisely the distance of the enemy ships, precisely, you could then target them, because they're 5,000 yards away, and what bearing, and moving at what currently direction and speed, so that your mechanical computers could calculate all of that within your ships for targeting. So you put all that information in based off of your radar. So that was starting going. The other thing they used them for, obviously, was hey, where's the enemy? Or if there's an enemy out there, scouting missions, flying around looking for things. But the sea, now, sometimes in the, sometimes you got hurricanes or whatever, that things are just impossible. But a lot of times, even in the North Atlantic, things were, in a practical sense, without being quite a hurricane, being nearly impossible. But even in sort of fairly rough seas, or moderately rough seas, or whatever they could do, and I think I've explained some of this before, is that the, say, light cruiser or battleship or whatever could sort of pick up speed, go straight into the wind, and then turn to the right or to the left. And that would sort of like as if you slid, like you're sliding into a home base on a baseball game or something like this. It would sort of, by doing that slide turn, in effect, it would create a slick, an area of smooth water behind the aircraft. And most of these, most all-flying boats, you don't need a lot of distance, because even though the friction isn't very much for the water. Your aircraft normally settles pretty quickly, and you can obviously also sort of be slowing down to, you know, near stall speeds as you're coming in, different than landing it on land. So that they could create, even in roughish waters, create a slick, and then land, and then come in, and then very quickly get the, and even while the ship was still moving, they trained to get the seaplanes back aboard the ships. Well, you could, and that's normally with these, you know, fighter scale type aircraft. But you could do that. I'm sure, I don't know if the Germans practice this, but I know you could do that with these smaller things using the bigger ships, so that you have, in roughish weathers, you can still recover aircraft, but also, again, so long as it isn't, you know, wind over too much, you can, if the seas were choppy enough that you wouldn't be able to take off a seaplane, you had the catapult, so that could launch it. So you could operate in much more varied conditions, and so it was really good and good way of hunting ship stuff. And the U.S. would have profited by that, because the big thing going after a lot of things like submarines is time. Is how much time can you spend over the target? And the more time you can spend over the target, the better it is. Because part of what you're doing with submarines is, even once you've sort of spotted them and they dive, is keeping them down. Because the longer they stay down, the slower they move. Even if you've lost all contact with them, just slowing them down allows your shipping in the area to get away. You report that, hey, there's, you know, submarines in X area, you know, non-combat ships. Get out, have his ships. I don't know, more of the effort for me. What are we doing down? No, I've been talking, but major victory, excellent. Okay, landing craft flotillas and light cruisers. And so the more time you can get out further from a base without having, you know, flight time, just does better. So what's sending? They're smashing into us now with a bunch of one Canadian and Marine Corps. But okay, well. Don't want to lose that battle. coastal provinces here. Aircraft evaluation prototype. Oh, I think it's got so many of these here. Different, similarly named. Yeah, that party rally. There we go. That'll be helpful. Gonna move more than that. Over here, let's. There we are. Hopefully that'll be enough to. Let's get. Other division. That's all 5 of the divisions there, so. One, two, three, four, five. Yeah, okay, they're all there. I want to drop the whole Africa. Can we get there from here? No. Okay, can we get there from Puerto Rico? You guys. Under affected, but have up some of those troops. Also seeing, I think I have I was waiting for get on board and units. Okay, they can all fit. Good. Up to here. Base for the moment. I want one of these. They're slow and they're not well protected. They're going to move some garrison units, aren't there? A couple of. Oh, they put some here. here. Well, these are what I'm thinking of, yeah. Got a couple that I want to help garrison some of those Caribbean islands. Okay. Oh, we've taken out a U.S. heavy cruiser down here. So they came after me, as they probably should have long ago, to stop this invasion by sinking all my ships. Okay. Part of Großdeutschland is now here. We might as well move all of these guys. I'll see the reason not to. Back to England. That way. This could turn into a real problem, but I don't think it will. Oh, good. We got some blueprints from Japan. Torpedo bomber focus to level 4. This one. Okay, so torpedo bomber focus. So we're all the way to the 1950s. So going ahead. Okay, well, good. Okay, Binking, you can hold out, can't you? Steiner. Steiner versus Smith. Up now we've got Hitler Jugend in there as well. And Von Bock is, or this Bock is putting Von in, I think. Now we've got a few more divisions there. Let's pull that side. No, I don't want to just you. Then go to Mexico from there. Yes. are rushing in a very unplanned way to take over America. Aha. Well, I moved aircraft up there, but not, I don't... The fighters are doing that. Let's... There's a bunch of fighters over there. Drop that bomb. About our only Marine or naval officer for ground, proper ground. Okay. You guys moved over here yet? Basic plane tenders. We look for certain things. Oh, is that the intercept? Oh, patrol. There we go. Take out their port. Okay, Sep. Get in there, right? Okay. And partisan suppression. Okay, and it looks like we were pushing too far ahead on partisan suppression aids. Yeah. They're really pushing hard on me. Who wants to find German naval officers who held command of ground units? I put it that way because it could be some of the naval infantry type, and I would prefer captains, naval captains or something or higher, or whatever the equivalent the Germans would call it, but either who commanded some of those late war naval infantry units that were created, or that ended up with a ground command. And the reason I don't want just some like ensign or something, but in the Narvik stuff, just for some of these Marine Storm units for Germany, leaders, a real person, and I need a photo of them of some sort. If somebody could find some of those, I'd really be appreciative. You can contact me. You can either contact me below on this thread, or better yet, on my Third Reich events thread for the Black Ice Forum. With some candidates, but I need a photo, not just a name, because if it was easy to, if it's just Googling them, then I presume you would be Google, you know, if I could find it simply by having the name and Googling them, you can find the name and Google them. Now, you can just provide links to things. You don't have, you know, provide a link to the photo, provide a link to the so that, you know, info about them, you know, like a Wikipedia page or something if they have it. Because yes, I can Google things, but I don't know if I've Googled for that, but I've Googled for some other stuff that I've had. Okay, so got here now. And we're going to attack with some of our better in shape divisions. Heavier stuff. I'm hoping what we're facing is a bunch of disorganized rabble. Back here yet? No, not with the... Oh, we have those liners, so those are pretty quick. Cycle through it, I want to see. Come on, core level. I'm looking for cores. Gross Deutschland, okay. I want to move a full core if I can. Oh, that'd be alright. So, where's the... Okay, all of you, can you all get... Nope, can't all fit on. You get on board. Nope, you can't. You can fit with them, okay. You can't fit with them. You can, okay. There we go. Cross Atlantic. At least these guys are escorted with something. This is just tying up ship way too long, but oh well. Mainly the transports, but everything else. We're gonna win here though, but okay. Well, we got a couple more light cruisers. We're in the Caribbean. They're like following me or something. They're following me when I'm in the Bismarck. And the purpose. Global gain balance for this is now more negatives. Okay. I really think that has a lot to do with these things, because before I'm sort of reluctant to push forward on these because just for the, I guess, global gain balance is just really pushing these up super high by keeping researching those. I think that's what that is. If somebody knows, for whatever reason, you can post it. What exactly the motive behind all of that? I thought originally it was to keep the war from happening too early. Or just being all-conquering too early, but I'm becoming more thoughtful that it's... Oh, well, we're down to 1 core here. HP that we might be able to beat. If we take... That's the capital. I think if we take that, we win Bhutan. Okay, so... We now have... Geraldton? Those supplies into Australia. That path. Okay, so we're also doing it up here too. We're doing Scotland. Electric Mountain Division. Okay, the 23rd SS Freewheeling Panzergrenadier Division, Nederland. And again, I'll point out, notice that this starts out as SS Freewheeling, as opposed to putting the SS at the end. Meaning this is a racially acceptable proper SS unit. Nederland was Germanic Waffen-SS volunteer division comprised of Dutch volunteers. It saw action primarily on the Eastern Front in February 45. Part of the division with the 4th SS Panzergrenadier Brigade Nederland was to be merged with the 11th SS Volunteer Panzergrenadier Division Nordland, but after protests from the Dutch National Socialist Movement, the NSB, Nationale Socialistische Beweging, okay, it was formed into its own SS Panzergrenadier Division, although its strength never reached more than a brigade. Now again, I know it was, what, last episode I was going on about Hungarians joining up late in the war, forming a, partial division kind of thing. And I'm not going on about that, but I'm going on about, let's see, February 45. So it's maximum about, give or take a few days, 2 months before Hitler shoots himself. And yes, Hitler died in the bunker. That the Dutch National Socialist Party is worried about protesting? Well, it's gonna... What? You have this much concern over things that you're protesting about, sticking together units, and it's not a pure Dutch unit or something? Oh, God. Really? Just, Nederland was given the number 23 when the 23rd Waffen Gebirgsdivision, Der SS, again, like I'm pointing out in the beginning and the end, SS Der Common Division was disbanded. The division fought on in the Oder River in the south of Berlin. Okay, so yes, we'll take this. It doesn't... So now we have two 23rds, because we have not sabotaged key railway and repair shops in the Manchurian. I'm still wondering if this is just a lot of BS for us. I don't know. Yes. So, don't know. Because I just know the history that it was a lot of BS. Meaning they got there, and I think they reported, they got captured real quick. But I think one or two of them, you know, sort of after being captured, you could look up the stuff. Okay, that's a reasonably good unit. Was sort of helping the Americans out, sending back false information. That's just my suspect. Just all too good of news. Okay, well. But you hasn't been moving yet. The biggest problem with getting to and then over the American border is the Americans will start paying attention and sending units. One of the sort of Canadian action. I don't think they will, because that's what I remember happening last time here when we invaded Mexico. What do we do now? I'm gonna go. Rommel invades Mexico. Kicks butt. Some Panamanian troops, it looks like. I don't know where they're going. Road networks have advanced. Great. Construction road network. Okay. And seaport capabilities next. Yes, oh, we gotta do the annual focuses. Sorry, forgetting this. Okay, economic boost. Short term, we don't need the long term effects. Espionage, we're just going to go with extra spies. Annual national focus. What do we need? Army, tanks, Luftwaffe. Examine shipyard. Yeah, I think that's what we'll build new yards. Okay. Road network, which we can easily afford right now. Okay, the 37th SS Freewheeling Cavalier Division Lutzow, formed in February 45 from the remnants of Florian Geyer and Maria Teresa on the Hungarian-Slovakian border. Now this is a case of two other units that were, you know, shattered, if you will, or not enough to make up a division, being put together as into one. March 45 saw the Kampfgruppe from Lutzow sent to the 6th SS Panzer Army. It arrived in April 4th, joined the 1st SS Panzer Corps Liebstandarte, where it saw heavy action during the retreat through Austria, where it finally surrendered at the end of the war. Okay, do we want to do this? Okay, looks like we won't lose. We don't need manpower so much. Got plenty of that right now. Oh, thank you. Well, I just always sort of worry about pulling other units off. Okay, we get another one of these, and this is fairly historical, I would say. Again, in size and scope, maybe a little bit large for the 9,000 there. Well, let's give it some support elements. Okay, I'm going to figure we can find some trucks somewhere. I'm not going to do transport. Well, it's fairly quick now, I think, so we'll do some self-propelled rocket artillery. Let's do the light. And speed, yeah, that's fast. Yeah, these guys. Then to get across rivers, otherwise they really slow us up. Let's do some motorized pioneers. There we go. Moving to the top. So keeping them basically still fairly cavalry oriented, though they will be a bit more motorized. Okay, oh, we need to make sure we're getting supplies to Tampico. Let's go to Bordeaux again. Okay, you want to get across the river first thing, I'm sure, Rommel. So, attack those guys. Alright, what do you want? Metal? Sure, certainly. Okay, now we've got 2 divisions. Get on board. You're under. Who are we at war with? War with yes, we're at war with the Dominican Republic. Okay. Okay, well, out of there, you're all beat up. Naval bombs we'll bring in here. Probably should have brought them in before launching the invasion, but yeah, that would be a nice reinforcement to the Canada edition. Okay, well, improved national unity, not really. Organizational regain rate. Now, we did get other benefits earlier as well, so it's not just those benefits. wonder what the Panamanian army is doing here. It looked like maybe is it moving to go fight up in Canada or something? You may think that's sort of odd, but hey, we notice a lot of these smaller armies are doing much better than big ones and aggressively dealing with things. Side shield protection increased to 3. And it's grayed out. Okay. Well, we got a lot of that plate. Dubious stuff, so we'll prove that. And I think we'll end the episode here. It's been quite exciting. We've got multiple invasions going on. Yeah, that's doing alright. Probably grab another port here. Actually, if we can go there, do attack that way. So, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. Do appreciate that. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe. And always love hearing from you. So please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, corrections. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.